Marsha, Marsha, Marsha.
The beginning of the end for the Trump presidency.
I believe this is the beginning of the end.
I do too.
It's really the beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end.
There's a beginning of the end today.
The beginning of the end.
Well, one astrologer says this means the beginning of the end for President Donald Trump.
The beginning of the end.
This is the beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end.
This is the beginning
of the end. The beginning of
The end.
The beginning
of the end.
The beginning of the end.
the beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end.
In fact, if this were a football game, we're in the third quarter. May even be the beginning of the end.
Breaking news tonight, new bombshell.
Breaking news.
A bombshell and breaking news.
We have another bombshell.
Breaking overnight bombshell.
Bombshell. Bombshell.
Bombshell.
Bombshell.
Bombshell. Bombshell out of the White House.
That's a bombshell.
The bombshell.
This bombshell.
Drop the bombshell.
Bombshell accusation.
Bombshell accusation.
Absolute bombshell.
I am beginning to resent the word bombshell.
We begin with the bombshell. We begin tonight with the bombshell.
Another hour, another bombshell.
Breaking news, a new bombshell. Another bombshell.
Bombshell. Bombshell.
Bombshell.
Bombshell.
Bombshell.
Bombshell.
Bombshell.
This is a bombshell.
It is a bombshell.
If true.
If true. If true.
If true.
If true.
The walls are closing in.
The walls really closing in.
The walls are closing in.
Walls are closing in.
The walls are really closing in.
The walls are closing in.
Walls seem to be closing in.
Definition of the walls
That's a-
closing in.
The walls are closing in.
He may be feeling the walls closing in on him.
All the walls closing in on him.
The walls closing in on him.
He feels
The walls closing in.
The walls are closing in.
The walls closing in.
The walls closing in.
The walls closing in.
The walls closing in. It's a sign of a terrified old man who feels the
Walls
closing in.
The walls
are increasingly
Closing in on him.
Tonight, the walls
are closing in.
overusing this metaphor of the walls closing in.
I mean, we've been saying the walls are closing in for 2 years, but it feels like they're actually closing right now.
I think he's feeling the noose around his neck.
The noose is tightening. And I think they're shocked that the noose is tightening.
he feels the noose is tightening.
The noose is tightening.
We're fiddling while Rome is burning. This president needs to be impeached.
New talk of impeachment.
I think there's no question it's an impeachable offense.
We are in impeachment territory. Right.
This president could be impeached.
Impeachment is the remedy. I mean, the president can't. It's
the only remedy.
Today is a turning point.
Today was a turning point.
Turning point.
We're at a turning point here. Is this the tipping point? I know we've said it over and over
You think this is a tipping point?
and over and over
This is a tipping point.
and over and over.
I think it might be near a tipping point.
This is a tipping point.
We may be at a tipping point.
Today, the biggest
Tipping point for the Trump administration.
What Trump did is clearly treasonous.
outright treason.
distraction.
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 The distraction away from Russia.
Try and distract from the investigation.
To distract from the Russia investigation.
This is part of a great distraction.
To distract from the ongoing investigation.
Master of distraction.
Wants to distract from the Russia investigation.
We're trying to distract
To distract from the Russia investigation.
Distraction from the current Russia probe.
distraction from the Russia issue.
In order to distract from the Russia investigation.
This is a continuous distraction.
To distract from the Russia investigation.
Thank you for being here. But that won't distract.
Infamous dossier.
The dossier.
The dossier.
Steele's dossier.
Information from the dossier.
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 A dossier.
Dossier.
We do know that parts of it have been corroborated.
It's not been corroborated, but it hasn't been disproven.
Anything in the dossier that has been disproven? Not one thing has been disproven. No major thing from the dossier has been conclusively disproven. To date, none of it has been disproven.
Dossier holds up well. None of it has been disproven.
All of the allegations in it, I don't know that anything has been disproven.
None of it. Not one word has been disproven.
You've been very bullish on the possibility that Mueller's investigation would yield more indictments, more trouble for the president. Are you surprised that this concluded without anyone else being charged?
I thought that there would probably be more indictments. Look, there is no question that certainly in the short term and maybe beyond, this is very good news for the president, for Donald Trump especially, because members of his family and his...
Real collusion going on, you said. Do you now have to revise that to say not chargeable collusion?
Again, when I have a attorney general who, in my opinion, is suspect, filtering a report that I have not seen, I'm not willing to conclude anything yet.
One interpretation of what's happening is that the Attorney General, working hand in glove with the White House,
is gaming the system to frame the narrative. The very fact that the way you framed your question tells you how effective that's being so far. Somehow collusion is completely exonerated. The report's pretty dead. We need to move on. I mean, those are all White House talking points, and they don't reflect what I think is probably in the Mueller report.
And this administration is paying no attention to that, and instead would like to whitewash and simply say no collusion, which is actually not what the report, we believe, says, and that there was no obstruction of justice.
There's no question that the House committees are going to continue their investigations. So just because there was not enough evidence for a criminal charge of conspiracy,
I don't think that there's an apology needed. Whatever kind of, collusion that didn't lead to a criminal indictment doesn't mean that it didn't happen. So I don't know.
Okay, but again, I mean, do you believe Robert Mueller when he writes that there was no collusion? I mean, do you accept that conclusion?
I think what I accept is that Robert Mueller did a very thorough job, and he has made the assessment that there was no collusion.
The report says that the president was not a Russian agent, Congressman. Would you say the president is not a Russian agent?
The president acts on Russia's behalf. I don't need to see the Mueller report for that.
There's a difference between there being evidence of collusion and proof beyond a reasonable doubt of a crime. And I distinguish between the two probably dozens of times. Now, either they weren't listening.
It's a curious position to take since we don't know what's in the report.
I want to tell you that this president has a way of trying to get into people's heads and indoctrinate them. He's been saying no collusion, no collusion, no collusion over and over again for a long time now.
22 months after Robert Mueller's investigation began, his report has been delivered. He found no evidence that the guy in the White House conspired with Russia.
Funny, though, half of America is upset that our president didn't collude with Russia.
This weekend, we received some troubling news. Our president is not a Russian asset.
It finally happened. The Mueller report dropped today. No further indictments. Did the Democrats put too much trust in the Mueller report? Because I don't need the Mueller report to know he's a traitor. I have a TV.
Yeah. It's beyond the shadow of a doubt to me that if there was not collusion, there was at least the effort to collude.
We conducted an extensive investigation over 2 years. We stated the results of our investigation with precision. All decisions were made based on the facts and the law. The investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired with the Russian government in its election interference activities. We focused on whether the evidence was sufficient to charge any member of the campaign with taking part in a criminal conspiracy, and it was not.
Special counsel's report states that his, quote, investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government.